It's Friday, and what does that mean? It's time for another episode of the CVC Home Service Success Network. We appreciate you being here. It's an honor, it's a privilege, and it's a pleasure as always. We thank you for joining us, whether you're on the live play or you're on the replay, where the majority of people do listen in to our weekly broadcast here. So, what's today's topic? Hey, it's one that everybody needs to be concerned about. It's taking your team to the highest level, taking your team to the highest level. And in today's world, managers have so many fears. The fears are there's such a low amount of qualified applicants that are coming to you that are looking for employment. So often we are so scared that we can't make the changes that we really should do for the long range success of the business. We may be looking at the short gain of putting somebody out there that's not qualified or doesn't have the right stuff, the right culture, and we don't look at the long term risk in doing this. So today we're going to kind of go through some of the things that you have to do in order to build this team of the highest level, A level players, the A level players. And how do you turn B and C level players into A level players? We've interviewed people on here. Last week we had JJ was here and we talked about new ways to bring people in with 4-day work weeks and other things and a lot of paid time off, PTO. That was other things. But the other side is, how do you make the best high performing team in your company? In my opinion, it starts all the way back at the interview process. It starts with the interview process and making sure that you are sharing with the prospect what your expectations are. A lot of times we see people, they get into selling the company, but they're not really laying down the expectations of what we're looking for. From there, it goes into the onboarding process. We've talked about this many, many times on this broadcast, how important it is to start people on that first day. In our training platform, we call the first day the most important day of their career because we're setting the stage for success. How do you get them into an ongoing training program? One of the problems here, and I want you to listen to this real closely, is a lot of this is our industry's fault. We have said that, hey, the level of expertise that you got to obtain is to be certified. But to be honest, you got to go higher than that. You got to be a sponge for additional information, and you've got to build your repertoire of training up to do this. Recently I looked at a study that was done, and it's actually called the Kruger method. And what it looks at in this was how people come in, how they perform very well to start with, and then there's a fall off in that person. They don't continue on that path upward. So Cheryl, let's go to you first. What do you think the gold nugget secret is to develop up this high level team of A level players in your workforce?
Well, like you said earlier, number one, you've got to hire the right person. You've got to find that person. But then you've got to work with them on a training process that you use, and you use it religiously, and you use it with everyone. All your techs basically need to be trained under the same umbrella. You want them working as in your company the way that you want it done. So you start with that. And then the thing about it is, I think where we fall short, we don't hold these people accountable to keeping up their education. We put them on platforms, we give them all the information. We've taught them face to face, hand to hand for a while, but there's education that is not done via hand, it's done mentally. And they need to be able to progress farther. Doesn't take long to see whether a guy wants to move forward or whether he wants to stalemate at the point he's got, because he will quit learning.
Yep. And you say that, and like I said, from running an online learning platform like we do, our virtual academy, we see the following. People come to work, and many times they are excited and they're into the training until they obtain their certification. And then we see their attendance drops completely off. It's like they don't even exist. And then about a month, 2 months, 3 months before it's time to get recertified, guess what? They're contacting me. Hey, I got to get courses with these CEUs, and I got this deadline coming up. I've had several people this week that I'm seeing the courses are just flying in where they are taking courses every day, but because they've got a deadline, which is a form of accountability. So, what people have to do is they have to build this accountability on an ongoing basis. So, Noah, I'm going to come over to you, brother. You're in that age group that so many people are looking for, but at the same time, so many people are scared of because they just don't think that young people, no offense, in your age group are going to perform for them, which I disagree with. I think there's a lot of good people out there, but we've got to excite them. So, what's your answer of how do we build up this team of A level players?
I think one big thing that works for me, and I think a lot of people probably in my age range can resonate with, is just the idea of positive reinforcement. I think holding us accountable is a massive part of it, but I also think that just taking a second to reinforce the idea of what they're doing is good, and maybe even encouraging to go farther up from that is something that's great. You know, one of the things, because we're talking about Dunning-Kruger here, that they talk about in just the study is that a lot of the people that are actually very skilled at the tasks they do underestimate their abilities and challenges that they have to face just because they truly don't believe that they are at the level that they truly are. And for that, you know, that can lead to a lot of opportunities where we're not seeing people moving up in their rankings in their company or what they're wanting to do, not because necessarily of their own choice, but because they have this mindset that they are not good enough for it. And if you were to truly ask some of these people, you know, what does your next 5 years look like in terms of where you want to go with this, you'd be surprised to see that more people really do want to advance. And with some of that positive reinforcement, showing them that, hey, what you are doing is good. And here's, like, you know, kind of a set out plan of where we need to go from here and what you need to keep building on. People seem a lot more motivated knowing that they have that reinforcement that, hey, I'm doing a good job. I need to keep working here, doing X, Y, Z to build up to that next level.
Okay, so here's the question. We'll take there's an old guy my age, and he's employing people your age. And we're talking about accountability, but this guy is scared to give them accountability. How do you reassure this guy that accountability is part of the answer here, Noah?
I think a big thing is, you know, if we're talking about the old guy here, you know, we've talked in other podcasts too, and Cheryl and I will go on about this of the idea of, like, you know, go in and just get your work done versus versus taking a second to really, you know, like, get to know the person and give some of that positive reinforcement. I think what I would say to that person in terms of, you know, you need to hold them accountable is, look, like, you were the leader of this workforce, right? And you are going to get out of your employees just as much as you put in as well, right? Giving, you know, setting a pay rate and bringing in employees to do the job isn't all of it, unfortunately. If it was at one point great, no longer. You know, people need to be able to hear that what they're doing is correct, and they want to hear from their higher ups, you know, the people that they respect, that they are doing what needs to be done, and that here is where you can go to keep upping this level, right? Because there is a higher factor of respect from that employee to employer basis that they do, you know, want to acknowledge and want to utilize.
Okay. So, what you just said, we got to do both pats on the back when they're doing things. We got to celebrate the good things while we're holding the accountability. Is that what I heard you just say?
I agree, but I also think that goes both ways. You know, you have to also tell them if they're not doing it correctly, right? I think a lot of people can use a wake up call of, look, like, you're being stupid right now. And obviously don't say that, but, like, you know, in terms of, hey, you have so much opportunity here and you are throwing it away by just coming in and doing the bare minimum, right? I really think that you have the opportunity to build these leadership skills and really work your way up in this company and one day be able to run your own team, but you have to be able to put in that effort, right? And sometimes people just need some word of motivation.
Got you covered. I understand there. That's good. What about the guy that just doesn't want to take the responsibility to move up into a crew leader position, Noah? What about this guy? He doesn't want the responsibility. What do we do with this guy?
You know, I think unfortunately sometimes there just are those people. You know, I think from an employer standpoint, as long as you have given it what it deserves and tried to give those people that responsibility and slowly build them up, and they just aren't taking it, some people just don't want those leadership roles, right? You're going to have people that do just want to go in, get their 9 to 5 done and forget about work until the next 9 to 5 comes around, right? And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. You know, but in that scenario, that's right. There's two people. There's the people that want to advance, and there's the people that just like what they're doing. And you just have to be able to find those personality types there.
Okay. So, Josh, your turn. What's your thoughts on this of building this A-level team of players?
Well, as we were sitting here talking, I was thinking, I was like, and I was going back to reading like the checklist manifesto. High performers read the manuals, right? Like the Flying Fortress, what was that? I forget whatever that B bomber during World War II, during the test flight for all the military generals, it crash landed right after takeoff, killed the whole crew. And yet they still went forward with production because they developed a checklist, for that. The most successful people in my organization have been the ones that always read the manuals over and over and over. They're the ones who are constantly reading the manuals. I think that's a pretty easy way to identify, those people. I said they read the manual every single time for a fireplace. That's what it is. The ones who don't want to read the manuals, they're always problems. And we're in an industry where you have to read the manuals. Like, it's not something you can wing. People get hurt. If you don't do the documentation, it's an easy way to sort those people out. Because, as we're reading through, what you sent us on the Dunning-Kruger effect, the low performers have a real hard problem with criticism. And right now I'm sitting there thinking, I think of a lot of people that just don't want to improve and don't take that criticism to improve, but yet still want the money and things like that. I've known JJ to fire those people pretty quickly. Sometimes it's a little hard to fire them as fast as you should. And then Brandy was really big on this, and she said, and I forget the statistic, but it was something like over 30% of people, if you have what's considered a successful onboarding, are more likely to stay in the organization. And that's like as we talk, just throwing people out into the field, like you don't go through their HR stuff, you don't go through SOPs with them, ladder safety. There's so much, and it's so overwhelming for those people.
Yeah. And I think you've got to present the person during the interview process what the expectations are. That's why I like proficiency charts. And if you're listening to this, if you'd like to have a template of a proficiency chart like I'm talking about, then just send me an email. I'll be glad to send you one in an Excel that you can go from that you can do and customize it to your benefit as far as that's concerned. So again, it's going to come from the leadership that you show people. It's going to come from the way you indoctrinate them into the company. It's going to come with the ongoing accountability and making sure that people are measuring up to what you want. And you cannot be satisfied with status quo when it doesn't meet the objectives of the company. You also can't be riddled with fear and be handcuffed to the people that you have. So Cheryl, what additional input do you have on this subject? You covered a lot of things a while ago. Is there anything additional that's come into your mind since we've been talking?
Well, with the Dunning-Kruger thing, I agree with him. A lot of people don't really know how good they are. They think you're just doing the everyday job. If you're an employer, to me, if you can keep your eyes open, you can see the qualities of a person are way farther than what they're doing. And these are the people you need to work with, especially. You need to work with everyone, but if you see somebody that's not at their full potential and you know that the potential's high, I've got one now. We're taking him from just a normal tech into overseeing all the technicians. Now, he wants to be there. And so we're working really hard at getting his leadership skills up. So this company recognized that this employee was time to move up. So they're working for everything we can do. I'm working with him on a weekly basis, trying to get his leadership skills where they need to be, but mainly giving the confidence to know that he's good enough to do it. Because like the report said, a lot of people don't realize how good they really are.
Yeah. But on the other side of that, Cheryl, we got to make sure but you did say he was willing, because I see sometimes that people move someone into a leadership position, an operations manager, a service manager, whatever the positions are. And what you got to do is you got to build them up the right way, but they've got to be willing. There's a guy just made a comment on here. It's a friend of ours by the name of Doug Wing. And Doug is a very unique individual. His father's name was Hal Wing. And Hal Wing was the originator of the Little Giant Ladder and took this company to a very high level. We've interviewed Doug in the past, and we've talked about his dad and the impact that he had upon the people that worked with him, the people that worked for him, and how this took him to success. So, Doug, appreciate your comment. And like I said, Doug's written a couple books about this. Giant Success is one. And look up Doug Wing and look at some of the writings he's done about his dad, Hal Wing, because it's a truly phenomenal stories there. And you can look on a past broadcast of ours that we actually interviewed Doug about his dad's processes of business. So, Noah, what about you? What's this discussion bringing up in your mind? Any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I think just on like a broader spectrum, if we're looking even just outside of your current workforce, I think it just reinforced the idea in my head of just appreciating uniqueness and really furthering the fact of like knowing that everyone has a gift for something, right? And through this being able to sort, obviously not everything you think is going to be your gift is your gift, but everyone does have a gift. And when you find that gift, don't underestimate your abilities for that. And really let yourself explore that. And also, another thing that my dad has always instilled in me is don't let your gift be free. And as bad as that sounds, I did a lot of like tech help for them growing up at Flues Brothers. I drive down there and go and help them for that. And I never necessarily wanted to get paid, but they would always pay me. And he would always, I feel like he did it out of spite for the people that weren't him in my future. Purely, just saying like, look, like, this is something that I know it feels like it comes very easy to you, Noah, but this is a whole nother ballgame for a lot of people. And this is something that you have been gifted with, helping people with, and that has gone all the way to where I wanted to decide to go, like which route in college. But appreciate that gift and, make something out of it, go and do something with your career with it. And, try to live in a way that every day is, and you're never actually going to work, right? Or every day never actually feels like work. So I just think that is always really cool. And I really appreciate when people can find those things that they're just really naturally good at and really have a passion for.
Well, that's it. And that's why I like the book Traction, because in book Traction, it talks about having people in the right seat and the danger of having people in the wrong seat. And that's kind of what you're talking about here. You've got to have them in a seat that mates with their abilities. I mean, a lot of times it's like in training. We can have a fantastic technician, but he's actually not a good trainer. He doesn't understand how to think like the person that he's training, which is critical as a trainer to be able to think like that. Just like in sales, you got to think like your customer. So, Josh, what about you? You ain't got any additional thoughts on this subject?
I do. Well, first, I was going to say, Doug, I've got 2 of your ladders in my living room right now. I'm repainting and working on my living room right now. And I've got 2. I can see them right here. They're right next to me. So thank you. They're great ladders. Yeah, it's interesting because like what you're just talking about, putting the right person on the right seat, first of all, we all know Jerry is technically, like, if you asked him to do anything on a computer, run. And I always feel bad for his computer when I hear him typing. I always just like clunk, 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 like he's beating it with a hammer. And just for that example, for anyone that knows me, like, they're like, no, CSR job would be terrible, along with hostage negotiation and suicide hotline. Like, those are just jobs, like, we know better. So that is such an important thing. I did actually have one more thing. I lost my thought here. And I have my other note.
You reminded me of someone, Josh.
We were talking about, telling someone they're stupid. I try and instill in my kids and my nephew, stupid hurts. Physically, financially, jumping off that landing hurts, like in the form of a broken leg. Making stupid decisions at work hurts you financially. I was always told I couldn't fix stupid with all the SOPs I write, but damn it if I still try. And the thing about learning to people's types is I've had to rewrite SOPs sometimes 3, 4, because something that is so clear to me, they don't understand. When you look at, I write them as a high D person, and I'm like, I don't understand why you don't understand this. It's direct, it's bullet pointed, I can say it in fewer than 10 words. But you put them in front of people and they're like, I don't know what this means. So like I've adapted, I started using screen records and things like that. And I've gone back and rewritten them. I've gone back and done decision-making hierarchy trees for them, just all sorts of things to rewrite, because salespeople the most have challenged me over the years.
What's been the challenging thing about salespeople, Josh?
Well, one spelled chimney, CHIMLEY. That one, when you're working in a chimney business, that one really pissed me off. But most of them don't have the love for it like I did. They don't want to take. I haven't seen many of them that ever want to take the time to read the manuals. They're like, well, they just want to do the easy route. And that was always very hard for me, because I'm like, no, you read the manual. You read the manual. And they're not willing to do that because they're in a hurry. Someone's standing over them. There's another person. They're not willing to say, let me do some research, get back to you. Which I think, as long as they get back to you, speaks high volumes about them, personally. But
yeah. So here's the whole story. If you're going to build that group of A-level players, it's going to take some hard work on your part as a manager. You're going to have to buckle down to this. You're going to have to clearly set out the expectations from day one. You got to properly onboard your people. You got to lay these things out. The proficiency chart, this should be gone through. In 30 days, we want you at this level, 60, 90, 120, all the way through the first 3 years. And when that first 3 years is up, you got to have the next one, because you got to keep going. You got to build past just basic knowledge. You're advertising that you got a group of A players whenever your marketing goes out. We got great people. We're going to service your needs. But we got to take a look at what our team actually is. And we got to have it as our goal to have those A-level players serving every single customer. It's what's going to get you to where you can live and realize the business dreams that you have. So that's kind of our thoughts today. Let's go to work on it. Let's make it happen. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough. You're probably going to have to change some habits, but it's time to start. So we appreciate you joining us this week on the CVC Home Service Success Network. Be sure and tune us in every week. It's an honor, it's a privilege, and a pleasure. And with that, we'll see you next time on the next episode.